This Thursday, November the 11th, Central National Bank and many other businesses will be closed in honor of Veterans Day. To notify you of this closure, we thought it would be fun to interview a friend of ours, Mr. Edd Newman, who served this country during World War II.
In our conversation with Mr. Newman, you'll hear him talk about how he literally hitchhiked his way into World War II, about his time serving aboard the USS Steamer Bay as a baker, and about his life after the service.
So from all of us at Central National Bank, happy Veterans Day, and enjoy this video.
Well, Mr. Newman, thank you so much for coming in today and making time to visit with us. Well, thank you. We thought we might just start out, you're 96 years old, is that right?
96.
Okay, and you've lived a lot of life. Would you just start by tell us about your childhood. Where did you grow up?
Where did I grow up?
Yeah, and what was your childhood like?
Oh man, that's a long story. I walked down the highway at 14 and walked to Memphis, Tennessee, or started walking, and I'd catch a ride, and I'd tell people I'm going so-and-so, because I didn't want the sheriff after me. So anyway, I finally got to Memphis, and my brother had already left, and he had gone to New York, and so I don't remember how I contacted him. In them days, we didn't have that cell phone.
Right.
Anyway, he told me, don't come to New York, I'm coming back to Memphis.
So where did you walk to Memphis from?
Well, I started out in Texas.
That's a long walk.
Yeah, but I rode buses, I guess,
Okay.
and relatives' cars, and then and I couldn't make a living and go to school. That was the problem.
How about that?
And so I had to, whenever the truant officer would come get me, I'd leave.
You just take off walking.
Well, by then I'd been working and I had some money. I could ride the bus. I don't remember how I got from St. Louis to Memphis, or Memphis to St. Louis, rather. And then I went back to Memphis from there, and the truant officer caught up with me again. I hadn't got 16 yet. But I got a guy called me from Detroit and offered me a job, so I went to Detroit.
So you're 16 years old in Detroit, Michigan, where you'd hitchhiked and walked, and December 7th, 1941 rolls around. You remember where you were?
I was at Detroit.
Detroit, Michigan. You know, Bryan and I, our generation, September 11th is a date we will never forget. It's a date you'll never forget.
Yeah.
Where we were, what we were doing. Do you remember on December 7th, 1941, when Pearl Harbor was bombed, what you were doing at the moment you heard it?
No, I really don't remember exactly what I was doing. I know what I had been doing. I was cutting donuts in a bakery.
How about that?
That's what I was doing.
Cutting donuts in a bakery.
Yeah, I was actually born in a bakery.
Is that right?
Yeah, in St. Louis. No, I was born in Memphis. I'm sorry.
That's all right.
And then I went to St. Louis, but I was born in Memphis, Tennessee.
So you were working in a bakery, cutting donuts, and you actually served as a baker in the service.
That's what I did in the service, but I did make donuts occasionally.
Okay.
And
so how did you join the service? Did you hear?
Well, I tried to join at 17, but I didn't have nobody to sign for me, so I couldn't. And my brother was already flying over Germany at that time, and so I had to wait till my 18th birthday, and that's when I signed up. Actually, I think I was 18 on a Sunday, and I signed up on a Friday before Sunday.
Is that right? So your birthday, August 22nd,
1925.
And you signed up the couple of days before your 18th birthday.
Yeah, my boss told me, says, he said, son, don't go. Says I can keep you out for a long while, cause and I said I wanted to be a hero, and so that's what I did.
Yeah.
I told him, well, I'm gonna go.
Well, you are a hero for your service.
Yeah, so I had 2 cars, and I sold one of them for $50, and I drove the other one to Texas, where I had a sister live there, and left my car and everything.
And reported where when you?
I reported in Lubbock, Texas, and they shipped me to Farragut, Idaho, for my boot camp.
Okay, and then how do you end up in? You served on the USS Steamer Bay.
That's correct.
An aircraft carrier in the Pacific. How did you end up out there? And did they know when you joined that you had this baking experience? Or?
Well, no, they sent me to Cooks and Baker School in Seattle.
Okay.
And they did that because in my records when I went in, I told them, I worked in the bakery. So they sent me to Cooks and Baker School.
Well, how'd you feel about that? Were you excited to be a cook and a baker, or were you just ready to do whatever?
Really, I wanted to be a pilot, but this here kept me out of that.
I see.
And because I couldn't pass it. In fact, on my record it said, not eligible for sea duty. It was in there.
How about that?
And they assigned me to that carrier, and I didn't say nothing. What's going to happen? I'll just go with the Navy.
Yeah. Well, apparently you did a lot of sea duty.
Well, when I went through Cooks and Baker School, I graduated from that head of the class, because all headed, I knew everything.
You'd already done it.
I'd already done it,
Yeah.
And so anyway, I graduated head of the class, and got assigned to Steamer Bay. I didn't say nothing. It's a brand new ship, by the way. They just built it.
We're going to reference this business card a couple of times, but the first time I met you, you handed me this card, and on this card, it references several things, and one of those things is pilot.
Yeah.
So you were ineligible to be a pilot because of your eyesight.
Right.
But the story of how you became a pilot and your interest in flying seemed to kind of grow as you served on the ship.
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
Well, on the Steamer Bay, I made cookies and donuts and cupcake stuff for the pilots on sub patrol. That'd be a 2 or maybe sometimes a 3-hour sub patrol. Well, just sitting out there looking at that ocean and looking for subs, because I rode with them when we were just on sub patrol, not in a forward area or in a danger area anyway, while the guys would let me go up behind the pilot. And because I was special treatment, because they were special treatment. It wasn't regulation, that's something they couldn't do. But the pilot did, heck, the pilots weren't much older than me, being 21, 22 years old. A lot of pilots, kids.
Yeah.
I was a kid.
So you were, let me get this straight, you were making a few extra cookies and
Right.
pies for these pilots, and in exchange for that,
Right.
they'd take you up in the airplane?
Yeah, I'd go up behind the pilot on the TBM, and that was torpedo bomber.
Okay.
Yeah, that was anyway, that's why I love to fly, but like I said, now flying, you're flying backwards behind the pilot.
I see.
And I never got to shoot the guns. A 50 caliber, by the way.
Did they put you in the position to shoot the gun?
Oh yeah.
Had there been a target, you were firing.
In case one time the pilot, there was a drum or some flotation, so they would usually come off and give them an excuse to. And of course, I'd get to shoot it when he pulled out behind it. But the time he turned and went out with that whatever it was gone. And I didn't get a chance to shoot.
Yeah.
But that was the only time. Otherwise, and you're just sitting out there looking at that ocean, and that's a lot of water. Yeah, I've never went on a cruise since when I left the Navy. I said that's all the water I want to see.
So, Mr. Newman, I wanted to ask, you were involved in the Pacific Theater, which had some of the bloodiest fighting.
That's right.
And your carrier offered air support for, I think it's the Battle of Okinawa
MacArthur.
and Iwo Jima.
At the Philippines, when MacArthur went in, our pilots was flying over them, and also at Samar, which was where my unit was. I was in Taffy 1. We had Taffy 3 and Taffy 2, and that was six planes in each one of those. I mean, six
ships?
Six ships,
Yes.
besides our escorts. And we carried about 28 to 30 planes. Well, that ain't a very big Air Force, but 6 times 30 is pretty good Air Force.
Yeah.
So,
What do you remember about those, like the days of combat? I think you, in particular, like the Japanese were known for just how ferocious they were in their fighting.
yeah, well,
And kamikazes.
Yeah. I think the kamikazes. See, that's where they started at the Philippines. First one we saw was going through the Sulu Sea, and one of our carriers took one.
Took a kamikaze,
Yeah.
and it
And,
sank the ship.
that's the first one I saw. And then we'd see them pretty regular. And the escorts, of course, they run about 2 miles outside of us, and we'd have 10 around them 6 DEs and destroyers. And
And those are
they were pretty good gunners.
Yeah. And they're protecting the aircraft carriers.
Yes.
Yeah.
Taffy 3 got shot up bad, and that was due to a Halsey mistake. And they didn't mention that till after Halsey died. Bill Halsey.
Yeah.
Yeah. He was in charge of that 3rd Fleet, and he pulled his battleships and was chasing a dummy fleet for the Japanese had sent to draw him off, and he did get drawn off.
I see.
And that let the Japanese fleet come down. And now I was lucky there because I wasn't at Samar. I was at the Philippines, at the Leyte Gulf invasion. And that was where Taffy 1 was. And our planes did fly up to help protect the Taffy 3. And they thought they were just going to get slaughtered, but they got hit. All their carriers, I think, got hit, but they only sunk 2, I think it was, Fanshawe Bay and St. Lo. But they could have just sunk all of them, except for those planes.
Yeah. So you were involved in some pretty intense.
Oh yeah, that was bad.
Intense
That was-
battles. Well, tell us about some of the times on the ship when you weren't either doing your job, which is baking and cooking, and or on patrol or in battle. What are some of the downtime? Tell me what that looked like on the ship. What would you do in the downtime?
Actually, when we were at sea, we worked, a morning shift would work from 4 a.m. till noon, and then the second shift would come in and work from noon till you got through, which would 4 or 5 o'clock after supper.
Okay.
And then you'd alternate
Yeah.
every other day. and then in your free time, do what you want.
What would something like that? What would you do?
Well, we played basketball, and we were noted. Our ship was, I can't say it, our code name. It wasn't called Steamer Bay. It was
Okay.
a code name. Sometimes they'd report and something in the water, and they'd say, one of them, the escorts, say, oh, that's just one of Fancy. That's one of Fancy's basketballs.
Y'all were known for playing a lot of basketball on your ship.
Yeah, well, you'd lose them off that flight deck. You couldn't play basketball. We played baseball, throw the ball around, and of course, then when the ships come in, you got to get off the flight deck.
Yeah. Playing cards? Did you gamble a
Oh
little
yeah,
bit?
yeah, we gambled. We gambled. In fact, our executive officer came down and played. We'd play at night in the bake shop, and our master at arms, he's the police.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
He come by one night because we have a door locked. But he got a key to everything. See, so he opened the door, and I think he thought he was gonna come in and get him some points for, you know, he could get some pies or cakes or something, you know, if he caught us gambling. Well, that was illegal. So anyway, he opened the door, and the executive officer was in there. He's number 2 man on the
Gambling
ship.
with y'all.
He was playing poker with us, yes. Yeah.
Oh, well, that's funny.
Mr. Newman, tell me about coming home.
Coming home?
What did you do? Yeah, when you came back to the States, what did you do professionally?
Well, the first thing I did, got married, and I started looking for a job, and there was a Buick dealership in La Mesa, Texas. That's where my wife lived,
Okay.
and so I went to work for them, and I got a VA job deal, you know, to be a mechanic, which that was something entirely new to me. But I'm glad I got that because I learned a lot.
So the service led you to becoming a licensed mechanic,
Yeah,
and it led you to kind of own your own business for a while, didn't it?
yeah. Well, that was in bakery business. Yeah, I went to after about a year there in La Mesa with my wife, and making $40-50 a week. That's counting the government tuition, and my brother called me from Chicago and said he had a job opening for about $60 a week. That's a lot of money in be 1947, I guess.
Mr. Newman, every time I've seen you, you've had your World War II veteran hat on. Do you find that a lot of people they see you out
Yes.
and ask you about that?
Yes. I get, in fact, the reason I wear this, my daughter gave me this a long time ago, and I didn't wear it. You know, I thought, I just didn't wear it. I don't know why. I just self-conscious about it, I think, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
And my daughter said, you wear that hat. She says, the people, you owe it to the people. She says, that's going away. Mm-hmm. And it does. In the grocery store, I have a lot of young ladies like that one sitting right up there, you know. They'll stop and thank me. Mm-hmm. That makes you feel good.
Sure does.
You know, and then I run into a lot of World War II veterans, and they'll stop and talk to you because they did it. And, most of them are the later Vietnam and Korean boys, and of course they didn't get the attention or the credit that we got when they came out, and they did just as much.
Yeah.
And I felt sorry for the Korean boys, and especially the Korean boys, when they came back, because the people didn't give them recognition. Well, that was an unpopular war. And saying that World War II was popular, it wasn't that the war was actually popular, but the men that did it were popular, because it's just something that happened.
Yeah.
Mr. Newman, you were talking about the Korean War and the Vietnam War not necessarily being popular, and I know Joe and I hear all the time, we live in a very divided time. You served at a time when the entire country was united.
That's right.
What advice, or what your business card also says, along with pilot and baker or cook, it says free advice.
Yeah.
What advice would you give to people our age?
Well, I don't know. I advise the young men to get some service time, if they can, because the way I feel that when they get out of college, if they don't secure a job, but most of the guys don't go to college that I'm giving advice to, and I tell them to get some service time, and then they could use a GI Bill for college.
Yeah.
And I think they ought to get to college if they possibly can, but it's pretty expensive. And
Yeah.
so if they go and put in a couple of years in the service, why, they can get a couple of years of college out of that.
That's great advice.
Yeah.
Have you ever heard that you're part of the greatest generation? Have you ever heard of your generation being referred to?
I think you told me that, and I've probably heard it before.
What do you think about that? How do you feel about?
Well, I think we went through the most traumatized area in the war, and the people were together. They were together. They're not now.
Yeah. That's to Bryan's point, and I'd like to just say on behalf of everyone here, your friends at Central National Bank and Waco and the people that stop you, you hitchhiked from your home across America, it seems, and tried to enlist at 17, had to wait a year, enlisted, joined the military, served overseas, saw some incredibly horrific things, persevered, and now you walk around spreading this joy. I would say that there's no doubt about the fact that you are an outstanding member of the greatest generation.
Yes.
And it's that togetherness that you were just referencing that is part of that. So I don't think any of us can thank you enough for.
Well, I appreciate it.
Yeah.
And especially if I'm in the HEB, and somebody comes up and thanks me, and it does. There's something happens inside. I can't tell you. I can't explain that, but it does.
Well, it's hard for us to explain too, because
Yes,
when
I
we
understand
leave,
that.
after talking to you, there's something inside that you change. And on this Veterans Day, I really want to say thank you very much for your service and who you are now, who you are right now. You have an impact on everybody around you. So, and I appreciate your time. Thank you for taking the time to be here. Is there anything else you want to add?
No, not particular.
Okay.
I think I talk enough about me.
We could listen all day. So maybe we'll have a part 2.
Yeah.
Well, it's good to see you, Mr. Newman. Thank you again for your time, and thank you for your
and,
service. And happy Veterans Day.
Yeah, thank you. And, when I turned 90, I thought, I ain't going to try for no 100. And then when I made 95, I said, why not?
Let's go for 105. How about that?
Well, I ain't going to go for that one, but